Well, that prelude started out as something you might learn when you're first learning to play the accordion, some very, very simple tunes. And as I was saying to someone just before we started, the piano is much more difficult than the accordion. Even though all the buttons throw a lot of people a curve, the piano is more difficult than the accordion. And I don't think there's anyone in here that didn't see the latest production of Fiddler on the Roof. If you didn't see it, don't own up to it. And I don't know if there's anyone on the face of the earth that hasn't seen a production of Fiddler on the Roof or the movie. If you haven't, don't own up to it here. We're going to sing one of my favorite songs from Fiddler on the Roof, To Life, L'chaim. L'chaim, L'chaim, to life. It's a drinking song. Yes, it takes place in a tavern, but it has so many things in it, lyric-wise, that are wonderful. So I'm going to switch accordions. That's my newest one. This is my oldest one, 1958. If you were around in 1958, I was but 12 years old, and I got this accordion, and it has been just the most incredible instrument ever. It's been all over the world. Oh, well, excuse me. I hope that's not going to... Did I turn something on? No? Yes. Okay, but now this might be a problem. Oh, how's that? Is that all right? Still hear me? Good. I asked John before we started if it's okay to interact with the congregation. And he said, oh, of course, of course. So, we'll take it slow. I don't think there's anybody that needs to, maybe I'll play just a little bit and we can refresh our memories. Remember? Here we go. Now, to life, l'chaim, 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 to life. If you will believe that one day was first this only worth, think l'chaim, to life, l'chaim. L'chaim, l'chaim, to life. One day it's honey and raisin cake, and stay as fun we go. Think l'chaim, to life. Our great men have written words of wisdom. Life obliges us with hardship, so the words of reason should go waste. To us and our good fortune, be happy, be healthy, long life. And if our good fortune never comes, it's true, whatever comes, think the higher to life. Next verse. Now, to life. Like us to be joyful, even though our hearts are empty on the floor. Like us to be joyful when there's really something to be for. To life, look higher, look higher to life. It gives you something to think about, something to think about. Look higher. To life!
And we join in the words of our unison affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. So be it. The what? Yeah, you did it. Yeah. Barry was saying he thought he had forgotten the opening words, but he had a little thing to say there. You know, that counts for opening words. A lot of things pass for opening words around here. Well, go ahead. All right.
It's the teeth. I used to tell the kids. If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten. And that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, don't be silly chumps. Just purse your lips and whistle. That's the thing. And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life.
Please welcome Barry Lowe. Barry was a longtime music director in the Bedford schools. How many of you had him or had kids who had him? A lot of hands around here. And he was 18 years. I think I was going to say it was 52, but I think it was 18 years. And yesterday we had a memorial service here where it was said of the woman who died that she had never met a committee that she didn't want to be the chair of. And Barry has never encountered a production of Fiddler on the Roof that he hasn't wanted to play the accordion in. How many performances have you performed in? Hundreds. Wow. So it's great to have you here, not for the first time. Great to have you again. Barry is active in the leadership of the North Parish in North Andover, Massachusetts, the UU Church there. And besides that, he is the father of our colleague, our UU minister in Ithaca, New York, Margaret Weiss, who is also a graduate of Bedford High School. Let's see, a few announcements. First of all, welcome everybody. Welcome to those who may be new, and if you are new and want to stay in touch with us, there are blue connection cards. Please check those out. Many of you have been here the whole weekend, pretty much, and many were here last night for a so-called wrap-up party for our annual stewardship campaign and trivia contest. That was really quite something. And the stewardship committee this morning said that they wanted me to say something about the stewardship campaign, and I said, do you want me to give people a nudge? And they said, no, we want you to give them a push. So If you have not turned in your pledge cards, please do. It saves them a ton of work in following up, and they're going to find you no matter what you do. So you just might as well get that over with and be as generous as you can be. We're doing well, but we can do better. Today, a couple of other things. There is a forum about religious education at noon, and that is happening in this room right here. At noon, learn what's going on in religious education. There's been a lot of change and things for us to learn about, so come as you can. And then also at 12:30, there will be a presentation and conversation about dying well, end of life, practical matters. And of course, the most practical matter is that you have to remember First Parish in your estate planning. And we'll tell you that, and you can get your name on that legacy plaque that's on the back wall there. But there are also a few other things that are going to be mentioned besides your estate planning. In another month, on June 2, we will have the annual meeting of the congregation, where you have the opportunity to vote budgets and fire ministers and do whatever you want to do. And there is a 30-day waiting period after people sign the membership book. So if you're not currently a member of First Parish and want to be and want to vote in that annual meeting, the membership book is available to you today. And one other thing, that is, there was a suggestion on our email listserv, our announcement list this week, that we take a very practical step in decentering heteronormative behavior and acknowledging that there are trans and non-binary folks among us. And one of the things that we can do is to indicate our pronouns on our name tags. He, his, him, that kind of thing, they, theirs, them. And that is becoming increasingly common and is a way of acknowledging and sending an important message. And so we'll find a way to incorporate that in our name tags when they are redone. But meanwhile, you can simply pull that little card out of your name tag and write it in yourself. There you go. Here, thank you very much. And I think I've said about as much as I need to say in the world of announcements. It's good to be together. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Barry. And Barry, you're doing a time for all ages.
I am. Do the youngsters stay where they are?
They can.
Well, why don't we have them come up and they can see firsthand, close up. My idea...
Close so you can see Barry's accordion.
You can come, if you want to. You don't have to. So you can see and hear better. I've done this before, and I think I did it here in this meeting house. The accordion, this is an accordion. And I've been teaching kindergarten now in Lawrence for the past 7 or 8 years. And I show the students my accordion, and they know the accordion, they don't necessarily know the name, and then it gets all kinds of nice other names when I pull it out. This is an accordion. Can you say accordion? Accordion, yes. There are a lot of buttons here. On this one, there's, I think, 70 plus buttons. On this side, it looks like a piano. It's a piano accordion. I get to play melodies on this side. You know what a melody is. Here's a melody. Do you know that song? Want to sing it? No. That is a melody, and that melody happens to have 3 songs that my students learn. Twinkle, 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 little star. It's also A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's also... You do? Do you have your violin with you? No? Oh, well, next time. It's also, ba, ba, black sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. 1 for my master, 1 for my dame, 1 for... And you can imagine when the population is 99% Dominican or Hispanic, some of the words that the students are saying is very interesting. And I never correct them because that's what they sing in their kindergarten, and they are on pitch, and who cares about the lyrics? So this side is melodies. I can play other melodies too. Did you see Fiddler on the Roof? Never mind. Yes, of course you all did. That's another melody, and there are many melodies. Many, a lot. This side is basses, which is a low note. On this row going towards the wall is a major chord. 3 notes, 1 button. A minor chord. Some people call that a sad chord. A 7th chord. A diminished chord. So I got 4 choices. Major, minor, 7th, diminished. Bass, chord. Bass, chord. Bass, bass chord, bass chord. Body language is very important in playing the accordion. Put them together. Thank you. Now, I didn't explain that inside here is air. Just air inside here, inside the bellows. This is called the bellows. And the air gets pushed through here where there are little pieces of metal called reeds that will vibrate. And it depending on how long those reeds are, it's how high or low the notes are. My daughter Margaret, the minister in Ithaca, New York, went to Bedford High School because the music program at North Andover was not as good as Bedford. So she came with me, and whenever I got to a point like this in the lesson, she would go like, she's in the front row in the alto section, she'd go like this. So now when I go to a sermon in Ithaca, I say quietly, button it up, Margaret, come on. So that's basically it. Do you like it? Don't say no if you don't. Are they ready to go to their...
If we sing them out, then...
Yes, we're going to sing them out. If you're happy and you know it, say goodbye. If you're happy and you know it, say goodbye. This is very important. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will really show it. If you're happy and you know it, say goodbye. Okay? Ready? If you're happy and you know it, say goodbye. If you're happy and you know it, say goodbye. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will If you're happy and you know it, say... One more time, don't forget the face. If you're happy and you know it, say goodbye. If you're happy and you know it, say goodbye. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will If you're happy and you know it, say goodbye. A for the singing. Not so good on the thing here.
And you know what I'm going to say. Freely we have received. Freely give for the good work of this congregation within and far, far beyond these walls. Our offering will now gratefully be received.
I was conjuring up my father for the first two songs because that's really where I got a big start on the accordion, obviously, and his violin work. And my father was not only a great musician, but a great athlete. He had a tryout with the Boston Red Sox back in the 40s or 50s. But he melded his athletic prowess with his music, love of music. And so I was thinking of him, and West Side Story was something I used to do in college, medleys of show tunes and things, and that's a great show. Not now as great as Fiddler on the Roof, but great. West Side Story has some issues. Anyway, that's for another time. We can talk about issues in Broadway musicals. There's a good theme right there. Okay, I guess it's, and I was telling John, I looked up what a sermon is. Do you have any idea what they use for a definition of a sermon? My goodness, it is very, very heavy stuff. And my wife could not be here today. She's just been diagnosed with a very serious illness, so she sends her apologies for not coming. And one of the themes in our 49-year marriage has been, you know, Barry, it's not all about you. It's not all about you. It's not about you. Well, today it is going to be about me. And she's not here, so. I am a teacher. I am a human being, a husband, a father, a grandfather, a brother, an uncle, a musician, a Unitarian Universalist. But mostly I consider myself a teacher. It's what I love to do. It's what I wanted to do since I was in junior high school. I taught professionally for 40 years in more places than I will mention here. Bedford was the best, the longest, but not the only. But I won't go into that right now. Bedford was perhaps the most significant in my teaching career, for it was here that I really honed my skills as a teacher. I was the program director for music education, K through 12, from 1989 to 2006, just after Keith Finney retired. Now, if you ever wanted to have an act to not follow, it would be someone like Keith Finney, who laid the groundwork for the music program in Bedford. I just kept it going as best I could. After 2 weeks on the job, I went home and I said, Ann, this is not going to work. There are so many traditions that the kids want to continue. And I perhaps should have continued some of them. I think I did. But one of them was singing "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" at the Christmas concert. And I said, first of all, I don't do Christmas concerts. I haven't done a Christmas concert in a long time. Second of all, I sang "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" when I was in high school, and I hated it. We're not going to do Handel's Messiah with everybody coming up on stage singing the Hallelujah chorus because I don't have any tenors that year. And Keith Finney was a tenor, if you remember. Anyway, I didn't think it was going to last, and it lasted 18 years because this town was so supportive of music education. They could look the other way when I didn't do those things. Some were upset, but the town being the way it is, it just continued to support music and what I wanted to do. I directed the choral ensembles at the high school and the boys' choir at the middle school. I also directed and produced the high school madrigal dinner and spring musicals. And when I came, there was no stipend for a spring musical, so I said to the students, well, there won't be a spring musical. If there's no stipend, I'm not going to do it for nothing. Keith did because he was that kind of guy. I said, you don't call a plumber into your house and say, could you fix my faucet, and say thank you very much. No. Joe Buckley found the money somewhere. I would like to think I was the head cheerleader for music education for the Bedford Public Schools. When I was about to retire, Chris Rabinowitz, your Chris Rabinowitz, asked if I had any pictures of my teaching career in Bedford. Of course I did, and all of the other places. So I said, of course I did. Totally unorganized and randomly thrown into a very large bin. So I had to pick out the Bedford ones, and I gave her the bin of pictures, newspaper articles, and programs, and after a significant amount of time, and if she was here, we would smile at each other, because it went on, and where are my pictures? And Chris, what are you doing? She presented me with a scrapbook, which is right down here, that documented my career in Bedford. This book has 18 years of madrigal dinners and Broadway shows. Pictures, names, dates, quotes, everything you could imagine. And the pages are adorned with all sorts of doodads and stuff that you do when you do scrapbooking. I cried when she gave it to me. I was on my ladder at home in Middlesex Street in North Andover, and she drove up and I was painting the house, and she gave it to me, and I looked through it, and I said, oh, Chris, I started to cry. I couldn't contain myself. It was so... To see 18 years of productions documented in such a creative way was very emotional for me. To say that Bedford was my dream job is an understatement. I could teach, I could direct, I was in a system that truly treated music education with the respect it deserves. Having a music requirement at the high school is virtually unheard of in this country. Not just the state, the country. You'd be hard-pressed to find a school system that requires a high school diploma with a music course as required. It has been almost 13 years since I retired. Time goes by so very fast. And jump ahead to this March, when I recently had the great experience of playing in the pit orchestra for Bedford High's production of Fiddler on the Roof. When Nicole O'Toole, no, it was, what was the conductor's name? I can't remember. Oh, yes, Evan. When Evan Grunwald called me or sent me an email asking if I could play in the pit of Fiddler, I said, yes, finally. Bedford High School's doing a production of Fiddler on the Roof. I did it twice. And for the last one, when Margaret played Huddle, I played the accordion while I was conducting the orchestra. That's it, but it was not about me. It was about Margaret on stage. And yes, they finally, because Bedford continues to have a wonderful music department, and without a doubt, Fiddler is one of the greatest shows ever written, I believe. As part of the pit orchestra, all I have to do is try and play the right notes and not worry about anything else. During the run of Fiddler, I had the joy of seeing kids from past productions come by and say hi. My first Bedford Tevye, Mark Gordon, Candy Gordon's daughter, I don't know if you know them. My first Bedford Frumacera, Becky Wolf, or Becky Ricci, who is the secretary at the Lane School. She was my first Frumacera. My first Fiedka was Timo Bengs, who came all the way from Finland to say hi. That's not true. But I said it kind of like it was true. Timo Bengs was an exchange student from Finland in 1990, was my first production, 1990 or 91. And he was tall and blonde, and he spoke with a Finnish accent, but it was close enough for Russian with me. Close enough to Russian for me. And he sang beautifully. And he came up to me. Now, jump ahead, however many years it is from 91. And I looked at him and I remembered his name. I said, Timo, what are you doing here? Well, he was visiting Erin Falo, who lives in New Hampshire and is on television as Channel 9. And she told him that we would do it, and she was in that production, but she had TV requirements, so she couldn't come. But Timo came all the way from Finland. to say hi. And of course, there were parents and friends who made this a most gratifying experience ever. I got to see First Parish's own Liam Oates play Mottle the Tailor. I don't remember what part.
I'm Oliver. I played Fietta.
You played Fietta. Oh my gosh! And you didn't know that Timo? Did you know that Timo came to say hi?
Yeah.
Did I you got a picture taken with him. You got a picture taken with Timo. Yeah, he's a great guy. Liam was, I remember, here about this high when I retired. He was just a little guy, and Melinda, being Melinda, said, Barry, you cannot retire. You cannot retire. You have to wait for Liam to get into high school. And I looked at Liam and I said, I don't think I've got that long. And just the cast and the orchestra especially was a great experience for me. I said to Evan, do you have a good bass player? Do you have a good clarinet player? If you've got those two things, then the three of us could handle it. And they had a wonderful everything, piano, the whole 9 yards. So, in trying to decide what exactly I could speak to you about was not exactly an easy task. What could I possibly say to you that might be relevant, important, or remotely interesting for you to hear? I've already done the Fiddler thing and a service on spirituality in the Theresian concentration camp. So this time I decided to do the stream of consciousness route, talk about the things that are on my mind right now. And the things that are on my mind right now are life and death. I have been thinking about death a lot. My health has taken a bit of a downturn of late, as has my wife's. Some members of my high school class have recently passed. All of our parents are gone. Friends are dying, it seems like every week, and on and on. At the North Parish in North Andover, where my wife and I have been members for a little over 30 years, we have recently attended 2 death cafes. Similar to what I asked John about negotiations for today, and you have something similar to a death cafe. A death cafe, it started in Scandinavia, where strangers meet, they gather to eat cake, drink tea, and discuss death. The objective is to increase awareness of death with a view to helping people make the most of their finite lives. It is the one thing that I share with all of you. We are all going to die. We might not share anything else. Some of you might play the accordion, but not all of you, and so forth down the line. We all share the fact that we are not going to live forever. Death cafes have helped to relax the taboo of speaking about death, particularly with strangers, and encouraged people to express their own wishes for after they die. The open-ended discussions also provide an avenue to express thoughts about one's own life, perhaps stirred up by the death of a family member. People sit around a table and talk about death and what happens after you die, the stages leading up to death, what needs to be done prior to death to ensure your family knows what you want to have happen to your remains and your possessions, etc. And there's also the required cake to sweeten the experience. And many of you are familiar with the 5 wishes. Yes? Somewhere. I guess I didn't bring it in. It's a document that helps you plan for the inevitable. Wish number 1 is for a healthcare proxy, which needs to be notarized. That one needs to be notarized. Wish 2, the kind of medical treatment you want or don't want, a living will, a definition of what life support treatment means to you and when you would and would not want it. Wish 3, how comfortable do you want to be? This section addresses matters of comfort care, what type of pain management would you like, personal grooming, and bathing instructions, and whether you would like to know about options for hospice care, among others. Wish 4, how do you want people to treat you? This section speaks to personal matters such as whether you would like to be at home and whether you would like someone this has been an issue, I know, for Margaret, to pray at your bedside. You know, prayer is something that is a personal thing, and I know Margaret had, in her first experience as a chaplain at Yale New Haven Hospital, a young couple came up to her and wanted her to say a prayer over for their child that just passed away. And Margaret panicked. But Margaret, being Margaret, came to the fore with a beautifully composed, out of her head prayer, if you will. And she started walking down the hall, and the father came running up. She said, Reverend Margaret, could you write that all down for us? It was so beautiful. And Margaret panicked. I think she came up with something that was very nice, but prayer is something that is personal, and you might not want that, someone at your bedside. And wish 5, what I want my loved ones to know. This section deals with matters of forgiveness. A lot of families might need some forgiveness within their ranks. How you wish to be remembered. And final wishes regarding funeral or memorial plans. And it's important, I think, to document all of special possessions going to certain members of your family, so there's no argument as to who gets what and what happens for the if there's going to be a funeral or not, and all of that stuff. You probably know all of this anyway, but it's important to go to these things, that these events that First Parish is having, so that you have any questions, you can have them answered. One of my questions was, when we went, I do not believe in an afterlife myself. I would like to not have to pay 1 red cent to a funeral home. If Ann could just dump me in the back of the car and drive me to the crematorium, I would be happy. But I guess you can't do that. You need... Oh, yes, you can! Oh, yes, you can! Good to know. Well, there was just an article that came out in the paper, the New York Times, that says, I don't know if you saw it, or maybe it was the Washington Post. Washington passes a bill to become the first state to compost human bodies. And I put on my Facebook page, boy, I wish Massachusetts would get on this bandwagon. And I had a big variety of responses to that one. And then just today, how to make doctors think about death. End-of-life treatment guidelines would help families, physicians, and nurses confront the inevitable with care and compassion. There's also a book you can get from Amazon called, and this is part of my sermon title, I'm Dead, Now What? I didn't get the book, but I assume it's the same as the 5 wishes. And Ann and I also found an elder attorney to draw up a new will and help us deed our house to our daughters. We have deeded our house to my 3 daughters. I've deeded my little cottage that my middle daughter's living in to her, because there's a 5-year look back in Massachusetts. I don't want the state to get the property, and there's also, it includes life insurance and annuities. So I'm taking the whole family on a once-in-a-lifetime trip. I hope it's not once in a lifetime, but in July, we're all going to Cancun, all 13 of us. And I'll let you know what happens on that one. So the 5-year look back after 5 years, and you need nursing home care, the state cannot take your property if you don't own it. The same is true for life insurance and annuities. There are probably loopholes and legal things that I don't know about, but those are the big things. So, since retiring from teaching, I have tried to keep busy. Tevye says, I have 5 daughters. 5 daughters. It should get a laugh. I have 3 daughters. 3 daughters. You can laugh. My eldest daughter and middle daughter are both in public school education, and my youngest is a UU minister, you know that. My middle daughter teaches kindergarten in Lawrence, Mass. Her school offers no music education for the students, so I have been volunteering to teach classes once a week, with a big show at the end, of course. You cannot do teaching music without a big show at the end of the year. It has been an absolute joy doing this. The students are like sponges, soaking up everything I have to throw at them. We sing, we play bucket drums, donated by the local hardware store. Yes, it's a far cry from doing productions of Oklahoma or Natty Smith as Pippin in the book, Open to Natty Smith as Pippin, but it is a worthwhile and fun thing to do. There's absolutely no pressure. The students, teachers, and staff are very appreciative of my efforts. My wife also volunteers teaching art to the students at the school. The joy and excitement these kids show to our coming is a wonderful experience for us. I also volunteer at North Andover High School in the music department, mostly filling in for the choral director. And I must say that since Margaret graduated from Bedford High School, the North Andover High School music program is stellar. I went with the choir to sing at Carnegie Hall, to Disney World, to Washington, D.C., and they are just unbelievable. But they rehearse every day for an hour, every day. I have played in many fiddler pits, many, many times since 1971. The first time was when I was in the Navy Band, and I fell in love with it then. There's no pressure playing in the pit. I just try to play the right notes. Haven't done it yet, but there's another fiddler production coming up next fall somewhere in Massachusetts. I don't know. The set, everything else. At North Parish, I also play for services, usually for the ethnic ones where the accordion fits in nicely. We have an early music ensemble and a percussion ensemble, and I also sing in the choir, and I just sit there and let John Middleton Cox do his thing, and it's wonderful. I don't have any pressure at all. I have also discovered an art. I believe that everyone has art inside of them, whether it be music, performing arts, or visual arts. So I found the making of mosaics satisfies my artistic innard inside of me, and I did a mosaic of my accordion odyssey because Sean Gaylord, who taught English at Bedford High School, when he heard I played the accordion and where I was playing it and what I had done with it, he said, "Wow, you're on an accordion odyssey." I said, "Well, I guess I am, so I will do a mosaic of my life with the accordion." Here's where I received my first accordion of great size. When I was in high school, down here, my father playing his violin. When I was in college, over here at Lowell State, I would not have gone to college unless I could major in the accordion as a music ed major. If they didn't allow the accordion, I wouldn't have gone, and I wouldn't be here today. Well, I might be here today if I did something significant. Laura School in Lawrence, where we do our music every week. Camp Chimney Point up in Maine. My first European tour. The New York World's Fair in 1964, where I won a medal in the virtuoso category. I got 7th place. There were only 8 in the division, but... And finally, North Parish, where I play a lot. That's the mosaic part of my life. I have digressed a bit, so let me just... I told you about Christopher Benowitz documenting my Bedford career. So, not to belabor the death scene, but I recently had a very tragic loss of a former student. You might have heard of a man, Paul Wilson, age 60, who was beaten to death in a public park in Cambridge. This happened in late December or early January. Paul was a former student while I was at Danvers High School. And I had recently seen him at a little mini reunion of Danvers students where we talked and laughed, reminiscing about times gone by. Paul was a gentle giant of a man. He worked for the same company for 30 years, never hurt anyone. Paul grew up in the UU Church in Danvers, where his father was the minister. At Paul's service, I was asked to accompany many former members of the Danvers High School choirs while they sang a tribute to Paul. At the end of the service, a man came up to me, introduced himself as a former student, and told me that singing in my choirs in high school was the highlight of his high school career. He is now a very successful lawyer. To have him tell me this was so gratifying. I would like to tell you all, if you have ever had a mentor, a teacher who has made a difference in your life and they are still alive, tell them now what a difference they made in your life. It's important. It means so much to both of you. Paul was young. Paul went to work one day, and while he was walking from his bus stop, he was attacked and killed, bludgeoned, with no apparent motive, wasn't theft, no suspects, no CCTV to help apprehend the killers. Paul's life was over in an instant. He left many remembering him as a wonderful human being. When I die, I would like to have a service remembering my life as a good teacher, a caring human being, a loving husband, a loving father, a good brother, a good uncle, a decent musician, and a Unitarian Universalist who always tried to find the good in every human being. I would also like this read at my service. Do not stand at my grave and weep. You've heard this one. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sun on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. Yeah, I know. Mrs. Haynes is giving me, okay, button it up, Barry. So, hymn. Oh, I'm going to run over a little bit. Is that okay? Do you ever run over? Well, when I was doing my the offertory music, I thought, well, this is kind of, I said bring it home, and I kind of got stuck in the 50s, and then the 60s, and then the 70s. And when I did the wedding band thing, this was one of the songs that I always did. You know it. I believe in music. I believe in love. Try it. I believe in music. I believe in love. Music is love. Love is music, if you know what I mean. People who believe in music are the happiest people I've ever seen. So take your brother by the hand and sing along with me. Find out what it really means to be young and rich and free. I believe in music. I believe in love. I believe in music. I believe in love. One more time. I believe in music. I believe in love. I believe in music. I closing words. Life is quite absurd, and death's the final word. You must always face the curtain with a bow. Forget about your sin, give the audience a grin, enjoy it. It's your last chance anyhow. Postlude. My Accordion Odyssey, Part 3. Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. Now, if my daughter Margaret was here, she would say, Dad, you can't say stupid. Well, I just said it, didn't I? I'm going to keep it simple. Pretend you're in kindergarten and use your hands. We're going to do call and response. Four grooves. Groove number 1. Groove number 2. No. 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 Groove number 3. It's been a pleasure being in Bedford. Thank you.